But the most basic way to be a socially responsible business owner or a business person is to grow every person that works for you. To commit yourself that that person will improve their resume based on their skill set and their knowledge set and the mentorship you provide them every single year. If there's been somebody working at your practice and you can't tell me that you've improved their capabilities in the last 1 or 2 years, that's your starting point. Because when I look at companies that really make a difference in the world, companies that are really green, they grow everything in their path. They mentor their suppliers instead of berating them for a lower price. They elevate their employees and give them confidence and a feeling of self-worth instead of asking, what have you done for me lately? And they take the people at work and capture their dreams with training and development programs, and they help them grow into the future.
Tim Sanders offers a powerful message. Your people are the center of business and leadership development. From 2001 through 2004, he served as Yahoo's Chief Solutions Officer. A survivor of the internet boom and bust, Sanders created and led the Yahoo Value Lab, an in-house think tank which delivered futuristic insights on technology and human behavior, including surprising studies on how email culture affects business.
Now, when you have an event that's on the weekend, I understand you got to talk to each other, but generally speaking, I've gone out and participated with Pitney Bowes in the biggest study ever done on email etiquette. And did you know that when people get 2 in the morning emails from you, or 15 emails on their Saturday day off, there is a statistical probability that they will log on to Monster.com or Hot Jobs and post their resume. And you will certainly invade what we call the healing process. The healing process is when they're not at work. They go home, they heal. And for some of you folks, come on, you got to stop these late night emails. I call it sipping and sending. It's the business version of drinking and dialing. We've also learned that if you start sending late night emails, behavior changes and people start to check their email at home. Not good for relationships, but even worse for sleep patterns. You start getting disturbing emails from somebody at 10 or 11 at night and you learn to check that late right before you go to bed, you're going to come down with something I call late night math. You know what I'm talking about. Late night math is when you laying in bed and you can't stop thinking because work is on your mind. And so what you do is you look over at that LED clock next to your head and you start to do the following mathematical calculations, don't you? You go, it's 2:08 in the morning. If I fall asleep in the next 7 minutes, I will still get 3 hours and 45 minutes of sleep. So quality of life is not just attaboy, but that compassion for people that spreads and creates a great company to work for.
Tim is the best-selling author of 3 books, including the New York Times and international bestseller, Love is the Killer App, How to Win Business and Influence Friends. His second book, The Likability Factor, was the basis for a PBS special. His third book, Saving the World at Work, was named one of the top 30 business books of 2008 by Executive Soundview. His work is frequently featured in media outlets like The Today Show, ABC News, The New York Times, The Wall Street Journal, and Fast Company. Tim has made a name for himself as an innovator, a marketing expert, and a people skills guru, whose advice includes how to form better business relationships through networking.
Because I believe networking is a gift. When you put 2 people together that should meet and get out of the way so they can make something happen in their life, you make a difference, and you grow that person, and you grow their power. Listen to me. Your network is your net worth. Elmer Letterman is thought of as the most successful life insurance networker in history. Started his business out in the early 1930s with very little money, and the Great Depression didn't make things much better. But he had a very simple branding program. Every Friday, 50 weeks out of the year, he would host a networking lunch at the Manhattan Four Seasons. So during the week, he would prospect for subjects. So he would take people like, what's your name? Stephen. Stephen has an idea for a restaurant. He wants to leave the big restaurant, and he wants to create his own restaurant on Broadway. You're one of his customers, and he knows about your dream, and he thinks you've got talent and potential. And what's your name? Vivian? Vivian is a successful banker in New York City that Elmer trusts, admires, and believes will get your value proposition. Darren, nice to meet you. You are a construction executive, well known for your ability to deliver an on-time, on-budget, beautiful facility. He invites the three of you, and he begins a conversation about credibility and opportunity, and at 12:45 he pays the bill and leaves. He never brings a brochure. He never brings a business card. You could look at him and say, I want to buy more insurance from you, and he would look at you like you'd slapped him in the face and say, you can call my partner next week. I am here because I want the three of you to meet. And he did this Friday system 50 weeks out of the year for a decade. By 1939, he had set a record for policy assets per capita that stood till the mid-50s. How did he do it? Well, come on, do the math, right? Do the math of reciprocity. You take three people and you put them together. You get out of the way. When you open your restaurant, I don't ask for a table. I don't ask for a meal. I don't even take credit. And what do you get after 10 years? You get a sea of people in one local community that will not do business with anybody but Elmer Letterman. Goodwill is the original viral marketing.
Of all Tim's messages, the most inspiring is his belief that one person can change the world by starting a movement at work. He's a master storyteller, motivator, and proponent of doing well by doing good.
In 2006, during this time of crisis, Timberland had their annual sales conference of all places in New Orleans, Louisiana, 1 year after Hurricane Katrina. On the second day, they walked 3 blocks downtown to Central City, and they worked with local volunteers from City Year all day, helping Dookie Chase, the famous jazz musician, reopen his restaurant in Central City, devastated by the hurricane. All day long, they swung hammers, they painted, they hauled off garbage, they pounded nails, and they made a difference. One of the senior executives from Timberland, though, realized they were getting it wrong. Michelle Johnson saw this. She looked around and said, this is bucolic. This isn't real. We're a company playing nice in the safe part of town. She scared up 3 yellow school buses, a bullhorn, and a 25-year-old with a bad attitude and a knowledge of what had happened in the 9th Ward. She loaded up these 200 Timberland salespeople, most of them raised in abundance. Most of them never seen anything like this. And those 3 yellow school buses rolled down the streets of the 9th Ward, and they saw the real deal. So to punctuate this, at the end of the road, she pulls over the buses and tells these kids, just walk around for a few minutes and feel this, okay? And one of the young sales reps from, say, here to that coffee pot, right by the buses, notices a makeshift community center, and he knew it, despite its wavy wood roof and the fact that it looked like it could fall over, because there was a huge sign on the top announcing the next community meeting, and there was a volunteer outside with a clipboard counting water bottles. So the young man walked up and introduced himself, and he found out this was a volunteer, this was one of the community centers, and the volunteer explained to him that he and his family of 5 had been washed out of the 9th Ward with Hurricane Katrina. And to that day, they were still living in a trailer about an hour outside of town that he explained smelled like rotten cabbage. This young man, a Dartmouth graduate who'd never seen anything like this, was moved, choked up. He asked this man, what can I do? He grabbed his shoulder and said, I work at a big company called Timberland. I can go home and I can write a memo. I can get you clipboards. I can get you pens. I can get you water bottles. What do you need? And he said that the volunteer looked at him and looked at the ground and smiled and said, son, we need boots. We need shoes. He got down on his hands and knees, and he unlaced his red Timberland boots that had been given to him in his sales contest 2 months before. And he handed his boots to the man and said, I can give you mine, and I'm going to do it right now. He very cautiously made his way back to the bus, understanding for the first time what it would be like not to have shoes in the 9th Ward. And when he got on the bus, he sat next to his boss, who immediately noticed this kid wasn't wearing any shoes. I mean, at a Timberland conference, that would be highly inappropriate, don't you think? He said, son, where are those red boots? And the kid points over to the community center where you can plainly see them. And he says, can you believe it, coach? They don't have shoes or boots here. They need shoes. So I gave him mine. The boss says, that's the right way to see the world, kid. And as the boss stood up to get off the bus, 15 other Timberlanders on the bus that overheard the conversation squirted off the bus ahead of him. And within 10 minutes, the buses were not running. And all 200 Timberland employees were off the bus, standing in line, single file, including the drivers, to give their shoes to the Ninth Ward. There's a person in that group, the meeting planner, who was thoughtful enough on her cell phone to take a picture. She has shared it with me, and I bring it here today. Let's see this. This, my friends, is love. You see, she emailed that picture back to one of her coworkers, and like some kind of scene out of the movie Pay It Forward, it hopped from cell phone to cell phone as the general manager and the catering manager and the AV crew and even guests that had nothing to do with the conference were caught up in the moment of contagious compassion. And when these 200 kids showed up at the hotel, the quietest bus ride of their life, they were stunned because they were greeted by 200 people, many of them strangers, that hugged them and kissed them and thanked them for their act of compassion. And in their culture today, they call it a ripple. A single act of compassion that creates a chain reaction of love. My final question for you. If not you, then who? And if not right now, then when?